What's up gamers, Davron here, and today Sonic has forced me to pay my taxes. And in atonement for my sins, I must play Sonic Forces. You know, it's been a while since I've covered this topic, but I thought I'd get back to it as it's the 1-year anniversary of the channel. Or well, it was several months ago. But hey, it's the effort that counts. And oh boy, those videos back then were bad. The narrative sticks around Sonic and Tails.
Ugh, it's hideous!
But thankfully the quality has improved, at least a bit. Oh, and if you're wondering where I've been all this time, that's a story for another video. But back to what you guys are all here for, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, as you may or may not have heard before, I am an optimist, but I am also a realist, which leads to some very mixed opinions down the road. But perhaps my most famous is my opinion on Sonic Forces. I did the worst crime anyone could commit. I actually like the game. Terrifying, I know. I just never had the same issues that everyone else seemed to have with the game. When I played it, I was just enjoying myself. But I wanted to figure out why. So, 5 years later, after its release, I decided to go back and replay the game fully to see if I still enjoyed Sonic Forces. Now, in case you are wondering, Sonic Forces does indeed have gameplay.
Oh my god!
Just not a lot of it. On your journey to save the world, you will play as Sonic, slightly smaller Sonic, and DeviantArt. Together, this ragtag rebellion led by Knuckles the Echidna tries to stop the forces of Dr. Eggman on their world takeover, as they journey through perilous events like Sonic's death, again, and Mr. Krabs' invasion force. So join our Sonic heroes as they discover that maybe the real friends were the power of friendships we made along the way. The Sonic gameplay is essentially if you took Sonic Generations and turned it into a PS2 game. It's literally just that game, but watered down in basically every sense of the word. But that doesn't mean it's still not fun, and it has a few things that sets it apart. I find particularly the way that Sonic controls to be kind of interesting in this game, especially when you consider stuff like the air boost. And the game, whether intentionally or not, allows you to make use of these in fun and creative ways. That's not to say it's like that all the time though, because a lot of the game is spent with pretty linear level design. Combine that with short levels and automation, and it's easy to see why a lot of people were pretty disappointed by this. But since I played the game without any previous bias, I could actually enjoy a lot of the levels for what they were. That's not to say that every level was a winner, however, because there were some downright terrible levels in this game. And that is to say, Lost Valley, the first level you play, and Luminous Forest, which are some of the worst modern Sonic levels I've played in a while. But aside from that, I felt like every level was at least a bit enjoyable in its own right. The music for these stages was generally pretty good as well. A lot of people seem to dislike the Forces OST for its overuse of synths, but that's never really bothered me personally because I actually kind of like them. I think a lot of the tracks here sound really good. And to add to that, the stages look visually gorgeous. Sunset Heights is one of my favorite locations in a Sonic game, and the background details are really well done too. You could literally see the stuff they're talking about in the cutscenes and inside the comms in the stages, like the firebombs that Eggman is dropping in Luminous Forest. Now when it comes to the Avatar stages, your enjoyment of them will come down to one thing: which Wispawn you picked. The Avatar stages are designed to be a bit replayable because you can come back to them with different Wispawns to unlock new secrets, paths, but unfortunately this isn't executed that well because it doesn't really unlock that much other than slightly faster paths. Now in my opinion, the best Wispawn is Drill, because you could use it to absolutely break the game. Essentially it gives you basically a kind of boost, but it's much stronger. Using one and then flying up in the air, while charging up another one in the air allows you to go insane distances and skipping over huge portions of the level, which in my opinion will never not be fun. Really the only other good Wispawns are Fire and Lightning, because these allow you to pull off some basic abilities like the Lightspeed Dash and going up in the air with Burst, which are mildly fun to use when it comes to movement, but don't offer as much game-breaking potential as the Drill. If you don't want to mess around with anything, just go with the Flamethrower. It's still pretty cool to have a Sonic character with a Flamethrower, you know? And the same things that I said about modern Sonic stages with the visuals and music could be applied here, except here I think the music is even better, with some stellar vocal performances. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, classic Sonic in this game is pretty garbage. God-awful controls that feel like Sonic 4 all over again? Check. Short and automated level design? Also check. Classic Sonic in this game is a huge downgrade from what came before in Sonic Generations and even Sonic Mania, which launched the same year. I can't really defend this aspect because I don't like it either. One thing I will say is that the levels actually do have a lot of alternate paths compared to the main stages, which is something I can appreciate, but not when the controls are so awful. It just seems like no matter what Sega does these days, they can't manage to get 2D Sonic right. Even in Sonic Frontiers, they still didn't get it right. But hey, here's to hoping for the next game. And yes, the game is pretty short, which is one of the most common complaints. It's about 3 hours, and maybe that's even a little generous. It's about 3 hours if you go for some of the side content as well, and some of those extra stages aren't that bad actually, I kinda like some of them. But for completionists, this game's an absolute nightmare because of the amount of collectibles it has, which all mainly have to do with my favorite part of the game, the avatar customization. I find it really fun to just go in and customize an avatar and make it look like something creepy, something cool, anything you really want. And I think they should have stuck with the idea where they added DLC based on other Sega franchises, just so you could dress up your Sonic OC as Nights into Dreams or Ai from Super Monkey Ball. This game overall is just really conflicting because there's a lot I have that I like about the game. For example, breaking the modern Sonic and Avatar stages with their respective gimmicks, the air boost and the drill-o-wisp. I like some of the levels, they're pretty fun to run through, the visuals are great, and the music is really nice too. But on the other hand, the levels are short, pretty automated. If you're playing by the rules, it's a very, very boring experience overall. It's just such a mixed bag that after all this time, I can see why this is disappointing for a lot of Sonic fans. But since I wasn't one of the ones who had to wait for 5 years, I think I can look at this game in an entirely different light. Overall, even through all the issues, I think this game rounded out to about a 6 out of 10 overall. It's got a lot of flaws, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of aspects that I enjoy about it. So, that's it for my review of Sonic Forces. Davron, signing off.